welcome to my June garden. I cannot wait to show you guys around. I have had my garden planted for about a month now, and the growth in the last couple weeks has been insane. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, let's take a look at this first bed. This is my pepper bed, and I cannot believe how big everything is in here. We have our onions down the side that are doing fantastic. All of our peppers down the middle. I think I have 6 different varieties in here. We have bell peppers, jalapenos, shishito, cayenne, and some lunchbox peppers. I also have some cilantro in here, marigolds, and zinnias, and everything is looking fantastic. We have had a few pest issues in this bed, mainly with aphids on the peppers, but that is a thing with me every spring when I first get the peppers put in. Aphids flock to the peppers, so I've been spending a lot of time washing off the aphids and spraying with some neem oil. Okay, here is one of my tomato beds. As you can see, these tomatoes are looking so good. They have grown. I just can't even believe how much they've grown. They're starting to flower, which means putting on some fruit soon. And the onions here are also looking so good. I have a ton of basil packed in here also, and unfortunately, the basil is struggling this year. Between earwigs and slugs, I am having a really hard time keeping my basil alive. All of my seedlings that I planted are really suffering, so I might have to go and buy some basil plants to replace the ones that are just about dead in here. But the win is that the onions and the tomatoes are doing fantastic. Okay, here is my other tomato bed. As you can see, these tomatoes are looking fantastic. The onions are great. The basil on this side is not struggling nearly as much. The sweet basil is struggling in all of my beds. So I'm thinking that the pests just really like the sweet basil more than my opal and Thai and lemon basil. One thing that I also noticed is my weed pressure, as everything is getting bigger, is going down. I was spending about an hour every morning pulling weeds from these beds the first few weeks, and now I can come out and spend like 10 or 15 minutes pulling weeds, and we are doing good. One thing I wanted to mention about the tomatoes before we move on, I do spend quite a bit of time in these early ages weaving the tomatoes in and out of my cattle panel. I really want to make sure that as it's growing, they're getting a really strong foundation weaving in and out of this, and I'm making sure that all of the tops, when they can be pushed through the next, I am. Otherwise, the tomatoes won't weave in and out themselves. You kind of have to manually make sure that you're doing that. Also really excited for my zinnia border to come in. Some of the zinnias are starting to get really close to flowering, so here in a week or two, I will hopefully have this whole interior border just in bloom. So I'm so excited about that. I don't know if you can barely see me because these potatoes are so tall. This is my potato and bean bed. The potatoes are looking amazing. They have gotten so much bigger than I expected, which is causing a couple issues for my beans. The beans are struggling, you guys. Potatoes are thriving, beans are struggling. One, I've been having to kind of tie in the potatoes to give the beans some sunlight because the potatoes grew so much quicker than my beans. My beans weren't getting quite enough sunlight. They are getting shaded out by the potatoes. So I don't know if you can see, I have a string here that I'm using to kind of pull the potatoes back so that my beans can peek out that are on the border here to get a little extra sunlight. Otherwise, the potatoes were just shading them out. I've also been taking some time just to clip out a few of the extra leaves from the potatoes to give my beans a fighting chance. I'm also struggling with earwigs. They have been decimating my beans. The beans are now getting big enough that I think the earwigs might not eat them quite as much. I find the earwigs really like my young seedlings, and once they start getting bigger, the earwigs leave them alone and it's not an issue. But earwigs have been a real struggle here. But I'm hopeful that my beans are going to get a fighting chance here soon. These ones here on the border, I have it here and on the other side, are my bush beans. And then back here along this trellis is my pole beans, which I'm going to probably plant a few more of those. I've been trying to succession plant my beans just to make sure I have them coming throughout the season. And they got really badly damaged by the earwigs, which is one thing that I have these terracotta pots. I'm going to link in the caption what I've been doing for earwig damage control, and these terracotta pots are part of that kind of method. Okay, so this is my kind of random bed right now. This area here did have radishes until just about a week ago. I just pulled all of my radishes. I was going to try and plant another round of radishes, but I decided to put a pause on that because, again, the earwigs have been decimating the radishes, and I really didn't get very many edible radishes from this first succession. The ones that the earwigs didn't get, the rest of them had so many worms in the bulbs that it just wasn't very good. So I might try adding a few radishes in here and try again. But if you have any tips for radishes and not getting worms in them, and then I also have carrots in this bed. My carrots did not germinate super well. I might try doing another round of them, but it is starting to get kind of hot for starting carrots because they like the cool weather a little bit more. One thing I will say about this bed in particular, it is 4 feet wide. My other beds, it's not an issue for it being as wide as it is. However, since this is kind of up against a wall, it is very difficult for me to reach all the way over and get some of these weeds along the border. So I'm kind of having to like climb up here and do some work that I'm not loving. In the future, I would make this a 3-foot bed if it was up against a wall where I couldn't access all of the sides. So also in this bed, I have some dill here, which I need to harvest. There is so much dill here, which I love. And I'm probably going to harvest this and dry some of it out. And I also succession planted some dill. So I have some more baby dill over here that is just now growing. And I might even do another round of dill so that it's ready closer to when my cucumbers back here are ready. I have lemon cucumbers and China jade cucumbers back here. I have had to replant cucumbers 3 times. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. I think the slugs and earwigs were eating my cucumbers because they just like were completely eaten one morning when I came out. I actually have one of my cucumbers here. I will show you that. That shows the damage that they were doing. But this trellis back here will hold the cucumbers once we are able to get them to. Okay, in this bed, I have arugula, lettuce. There's some eggplant here in the middle that my lettuce and arugula have gotten so big. I need to do another deep harvest on these. I have already harvested the arugula a few times. Note to self, I don't need this much arugula at a time. And the lettuce, I am seriously so impressed with how fast it grows back after I cut it. Our eggplant here, yeah, we've got some issues with our earwigs. you're going to sense that common theme that earwigs are an issue. I have a border of borage to kind of separate my lettuce from my sweet potatoes that are over here. My sweet potatoes look like they are struggling. I couldn't find any sweet potato slips local to me, so I ordered some in, and they just had a really rough time getting started. And again, we're fighting earwig damage over here. It could be slugs also, but I've been coming out early mornings and I'm not seeing nearly as many slugs as I am earwigs. Okay, this has also been a bed that I've just struggled in the garden this spring, to be completely honest. But my corn, I have reseeded it several times because the birds keep coming and plucking my corn seeds out. But it looks like we finally have some popcorn that is growing decently. And then along this trellis, I have honey nut squash that I am going to train to trellis up here, and I'm so excited for them. They're looking actually fantastic. Corn and squash are supposed to be really great companion plants, so I'm excited to see how this bed does as everything is starting to grow and get established. Okay, so this bed has my peas, which I haven't done a really great job of making sure that they are trellised. So this afternoon, I think I'm actually going to take some string and kind of rodeo these all back up here. But the peas are all flowering. I've been starting to see a few little pea pods. So hopefully we're going to be harvesting some peas really soon. I have my violas here and a marigold and watermelon in this bed. And then I also have a few other herbs that I just had left over. So we've got some dill in here and I think parsley over there. But this bed is actually doing probably the best out of a lot of them. Okay, now for my last raised bed. This is my raspberry bed. My husband's aunt had raspberry starts that she gifted us, so I was able to get those in here. However, my lovely husband decided to spray, and so there is a little bit of spray damage to my raspberries because he didn't realize how temperamental raspberries are to drift. So there is probably about a quarter of this bed that has been completely sprayed out, or looks like this poor guy here. So hopefully we get a few raspberries this year. I'm not expecting a whole bunch, especially since it's the first year with raspberries, and that first year transplants usually don't produce quite as much. Next, we have my vertical garden beds. These are my GreenStalk planters. Obsessed with them. This one has all of my herbs in it. So I have 24 herbs in here. And besides my basil and literally just the sweet basil, and I guess I have some parsley that looks like it is having issues. Besides those that are getting decimated by the bugs, everything in here is looking fantastic. Back here, I also have a strawberry tower. And this actually is so great because you don't have to worry about the strawberries like laying in the ground, getting rotted, and all of that. So seriously, loving these vertical towers. And then here is all of my mint. I did not want to put mint anywhere that they could spread and take over the entire bed. So I have 3 different kinds of mint in here. I have chocolate mint, pineapple mint, strawberry mint, and just regular sweet mint. And cannot wait to make everything mint this year. Okay, we are almost done. We're entering 2 of my favorite areas, especially once we get full-blown summer. This is the flower bed. So I've got a huge mix of flowers in here. Up here with the netting is all of my dahlias. They're struggling with the earwigs this year. Common theme. Those dang earwigs. And then in here, I have just a mixture of everything. We've got cosmos, celosia, zinnias, snapdragon, straw flower, some feverfew, this really tall stuff. And then this is our last section. I've just got a little bit of a random assortment here. So this is my blueberry bush. We've got a few blueberries on here. We have more zinnias just because we love zinnias here. We've got a few herbs. I've got some thyme growing, some rosemary, some chives, a marigold. I love calendula. This all has just like reseeded itself, which is fantastic. We have some sage here, and then we've got some yarrow. These sunflowers just kind of grew themselves there, so I let them go. And okay, friends, I really hope you enjoyed this month's garden tour. I will for sure bring you along to see how everything has progressed next month. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments how your garden is coming along, lessons learned, anything you're struggling with, what's thriving. Give me all of the details.